Part 58. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 571. According to the four-level competition method of county, city, province, and country, the champions of the competition will be produced one by one, and finally compete for the national championship. In the competitions in various places, we will attract some advertisers for sponsorship according to the situation. If the effect is good, we will most likely recover most of the cost we invested in this competition. The whole process will last about a month. Each level of competition will take about a week to prepare, and will be adjusted in time according to the situation. Mr. Lee, I still need you to do some publicity on your Weibo account. Yes, Li Yuan nodded. Although he didn't use Weibo much, Weibo's influence was still relatively large at this time. He opened a Weibo account after the national selection event of Milk Tea Sister last year. So far, it has only been about a month, and he has already had tens of millions of followers, fans. This number of fans is very different from the number of fans of other stars, but his fans are real fans, and they don't spend money to buy attention. After listening to the report, Li Yuan knocked on the table with his hand and looked at Zhong Tingyu and Xia's Haijin beside him. Mr. Zhong, Mr. Xia, what do you two think of this plan? Zhong Tingyu shook her head. This plan is very good, I have no opinion. She also participated in the whole process of this plan and put forward many opinions. Now she naturally has no other opinions. Xia's Haijin smiled slightly and said, well, it's okay. Li Yuan still believes in Zhong Tingyu's vision. Although Xia's Haijin doesn't have so many ideas, she is very serious about her work, especially for the company's expenses. She is very strict in reviewing and checking. This may be related to their respective personalities. Li Yuan is still very willing to cultivate his three girlfriends. They can also bring him great help in various aspects. Of course, the most important point is to improve their participation and sense of achievement. Once people are busy and have their own work and tasks, they will not have wild thoughts and will also gain a sense of accomplishment from it. Otherwise, if you simply treat the three of them as vases and provide them with economic and material supplies, then over time, the relationship will change. Their mentality and their own mentality will also change, which is almost inevitable and foreseeable. If you want a long-lasting relationship, there must be a bond between the two people. If there is no such bond, it will be like a kite with a broken string, and something will happen sooner or later. Li Yuan really has feelings for the three of them. Needless to say, Bai Wuxi is the white moonlight of two lives, and they were deskmates in high school. Zhong Tingyu, who he also knew in his previous life, is a perfect and cold goddess, and has also brought him a lot of help in this life. For example, the Chayan Use milk tea shop, it can be said that it was jointly established by him and her, and Zhong Tingyu also put a lot of effort and sweat into it. As for Xia's Haijin, although he didn't know her in his previous life, her personality and the emotional value she provided made it impossible for Li Yuan to have no feelings for her. Not to mention Li Yuan, even if it were any other man in the country, it would be impossible for him to have no feelings for such a girlfriend. Li Yuan sorted out his thoughts, looked at the main core personnel of Datang Technology Company in the conference room, smiled, and made a summary. Everyone, I won't talk about the importance of this King of Glory national selection contest. I have told you many times. Now, everything is ready, and Dongfeng also has it. I only have one request, to make this event well and beautiful, to show our own characteristics, and to form our own brand. Okay, that's all. I declare that the first King of Glory National Selection Contest will officially begin from now on. Daxia University. As Li Yuan's alma mater, Li Yuan is also a student at the school. He is a real figure in the school. Everything about Li Yuan's company will be known and spread at the first time. Therefore, When the King of Glory National Selection Contest was officially released, it quickly caused crazy discussions throughout the school. As a part-time employee of Datang Technology Company, Lucia is still very familiar with the company's business. When he saw the prize money of up to 20 million, Lucia was stunned and looked unbelievable. Oh my god, the prize money is as high as 20 million. Brother Yuan is really rich. This is probably the highest prize money for domestic game competitions, right? Wu Hao's eyes widened. Well, that's for sure. 20 million, I can't spend it all in my lifetime. My godfather is really rich and inhumane. It's so nice to hold this thigh. Suzuki-young looked at the arrangement of this competition and thought of a key question. Old Six, Hazi, what do you think, as company employees, can we participate in this competition? Wu Hao, Lucia, Renjun, and others looked at him strangely when they heard Suzuki-young's words. Suzuki-young was a little scared by the stares of several people. Why are you looking at me like this? Lucia said seriously, Xiaoqiang, you can, do you want to go through the internal channel and let Brother Yuan open a back door for you? Suzuki-young shook his head quickly, how is it possible? I am very interested in this competition. You know, I often play this game. Jinkei uses the Thief 6. A few of us also often play in the 5th row. I think if we can participate in this competition, not to mention winning the final championship and winning tens of millions of awards, even if we finish in the top 10, we can also earn millions. Don't tell me that you're not moved. Lucia, Wu Hao, and Renjun looked at each other and nodded in unison. It would be a lie to say that I am not excited. This is the highest award in history. With the participation of all the people and the national selection, it is simply a blast. I'm sure that at this time, in the whole of China, if there are not 1 million people, there must be 800,000 people who want to participate in this competition. I have something to do today, please take a day off. I've been too busy lately. I get off work after 11 o'clock every night. I'm a bit nervous and have to take 2 days off. End of this chapter. Chapter 329. Everyone participates and earns 800 million in 3 days. Not only Lucia, Wu Hao, Renjun, and other Li Yuan's classmates were discussing it enthusiastically, but the entire freshman class was also discussing it. In the girls' dormitory, Fang Yani looked at Wang Zhirong, who was in a daze, and asked, "Wow, classmate Li Yuan is really cool. Zhirong, will you participate?" Wang Zhirong looked at the Honor of Kings promotional slogans on major websites and felt uncomfortable and inexplicable. Ever since she had a special alien contact with Li Yuan in the cafeteria, Li Yuan had never had any contact with her again. When he saw her, he turned around and left, as if he was avoiding her on purpose. Of indifference. This also made her feel full of frustration. She had done that, but Li Yuan was as cold as iron and didn't give herself any chance at all. During this period, she also realized clearly that it was probably impossible for her to truly get Li Yuan in her life. It's good to have the opportunity to personally measure Li Yuan's size and taste the taste of his body. Sometimes, she was so angry that she wanted to tell what happened that day to retaliate against Li Yuan and make his reputation worse. Who asked him to treat her like that? However, she thought for a long time, but in the end she didn't take action. She didn't dare. Li Yuan is now very famous, has many fans, and is very, very rich. More importantly, Li Yuan has a very good relationship with Executive Vice President Ma Tengfei. She was very worried. If she really exposed this matter and tried to smear Li Yuan, she herself might be expelled from the school. In the end, after thinking for a long time, she still felt that this was the only way to forget it, and it was better not to have such wishful thinking. It is impossible for an ugly duckling to fly up a branch and become a phoenix. Wang Zhirong felt mixed emotions in his heart and glanced at Fang Yani, who looked excited. She knows that her roommate also likes to play Honor of Kings very much, and is very good at playing mage. She has reached the diamond rank. During the winter vacation, she also played double row with the opponent many times, and Fang Yani led her every time. Fly. Yani, do you want to participate? Fang Yani nodded and said matter-of-factly, of course. With such a good opportunity, I must participate. Hee, the prize is so high. If you win the prize, you won't be able to take off properly. I feel like my game is pretty good, and this game is really fun. Li Yuan is also very generous and considerate. He specially divided the competition into male and female groups. We don't need to compete with boys. As long as we compete with girls, I am quite confident. Zhurong, you can join too. We will form a team in our dormitory. You can help me. We are guaranteed to win a place. Listening to Fang Yani's eloquent words, Wang Zhurong hesitated for a moment, then nodded in agreement. She was quite interested in such a national competition with such a high prize money. What's more, in the promotion of the Honor of Kings national competition, in the finals, Li Yuan will hold a concert at the competition site, and the tickets for the concert will be drawn from all participating teams. This makes Li Yuan's the fans suddenly went crazy. Well, that's okay, I'll join in too. As the news spread, the entire internet began to boil with discussion. It was 100 times more lively than the last Milk Tea Sisters selection event. In the Milk Tea Sisters selection, only a very small number of girls who are more confident in their appearance participate, and the bonuses are not that exaggerated. But this time the Honor of Kings competition is different. It is a nationwide competition. Regardless of men, women, old or young, as long as they play the game well, they can sign up and win big prizes. In addition, in order to prevent cheating, Li Yuan has made corresponding preparations. He must verify his name with his identity card before he can register to participate. If his identity card does not match his own, he will be directly disqualified from the competition during the qualification review. Sisters, take a quick look online. Zaiwa Male God's company has released another exciting news. Zaiwa Male God is going to hold the Honor of Kings national competition. I want to participate. Are you guys together? Of Honor of Kings national competition, what the hell is this? I come to mixy. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 572. Holy shit, it's true, the bonus is 20 million. Xiahua is so generous he gave out 20 million as a reward in one game. If he can win the final national championship, he will make millions. That's not true. This is the Xiahua Male God. He is worth tens of billions. Spending 20 million is not as simple as buying a pair of shoes. Stop saying this, just say, will you participate or not? Must participate, maybe, we can also win a prize. Even if we don't win, it's not bad to be selected to participate in the finals. If we register according to the province, city, and county, we who live in the same dormitory cannot compete together. We can only compete with our high school and junior high school classmates. This is a bit troublesome. I also thought that we in the dormitory should sign up together. Actually, this is normal. It is more reasonable to sign up according to your ID card. If you can form a team at will, it would be too troublesome. It's not too troublesome if you form a team at will. You can have a knockout match and a points knockout system. That's fine too. Haha, you make it easy with so many people signing up. It's a lot of trouble and a lot of work. It can't be completed even in half a year. I feel that the current competition method proposed by Zaiwa Male God is very reasonable. It's reasonable to say that there are so many universities like ours in Magic City, so many people, how many people need to sign up, but in Zhejiang province, how many people need to sign up? Not fair at all. Ha ha ha, no matter how many people there are in Magic City, can they be more numerous than those in Central Plains province? Besides, universities are a big deal, and the competition areas are not divided based on universities, but based on ID cards. Are you from the Black Province, then you can only compete in the Black Province. It's too troublesome. Whoever wants to participate in this crappy game can participate anyway. I won't participate. Asshole, I can see that you are Xiaohua's anti-fan. I have blocked you and reported you. After the news was released, online discussions were in full swing, with both positive and negative comments. Needless to say, the positive aspects, most of the discussion is about the game itself. Negative comments mostly question the game's format and fairness. For a time, the entire internet was discussing the Honor of Kings national competition, occupying the front pages of major websites. In the company, Li Yuan looked at the debate on the internet and couldn't help but smile. For this kind of thing, no matter it is any competition, even the Olympics, some people will say it is unfair and the competition system is unreasonable, let alone that it is just a competition plan hastily thought up by a few people. There is no such thing as fairness or unfairness, as long as it is relatively fair. He's not a god, so I feel like he's considered it thoughtfully enough. For this competition, he has invested a lot. The prize money for the competition alone is 20 million, not to mention the cost of hosting the competition itself. Even if there is advertising sponsorship, it is hard to say. It may have to be in a provincial competition. Get some sponsorship. Boom, boom, boom. There was a knock on the office door. Li Yuan raised his head calmly. Come in. Lin Yue walked in with a swaying figure and a smile to report. Mr. Li, our backend data has come out. 12 hours after the release of the Glory of Kings national competition, our daily sales increased significantly, exceeding 100 million and reaching 138 million. Today's daily sales, it's not a big problem for total sales to reach a new height of 200 million. Lin Yue was still very shocked when she saw this number, and she deeply admired Li Yuan's brilliant methods. You know, for this Honor of Kings national competition, the total prize money and competition costs are at most 40 to 50 million. But after the news of this national competition was released, in just half a day, the profit had already exceeded the cost of the entire competition. This is only half a day, and the entire competition will last for more than half a month. When Li Yuan heard the numbers reported by Lin Yue, his body couldn't help but tremble, feeling that it was very exaggerated. This way of making money while lying down is simply 100 times faster than robbing a bank. Even if the bank opens its doors for you to rob, how much can you rob in 12 hours? As for him, he made 138 million in just 12 hours. This speed and this way of making money. He can only say that online games are really profitable. Mr. Lin, tell me, in what aspects have you suddenly improved so much? Lin Yue had already prepared a draft, and she had already studied the feedback data. Mr. Li, the main reason is that the sales of heroes, skins and inscriptions have increased. In this competition, the contestants use their own accounts. Some players have incomplete inscriptions on their accounts, or they have not bought their favorite hero skins. With the help of this game's Dongfeng, they bought it. Listening to Lin Yue's explanation, Li Yuan smiled and nodded. This kind of result was what he wanted to see. Before the competition plan was officially released, he also had a dispute with Zhong Tingyu and other company backbones over the method of the competition. Zhong Tingyu believes that the company official should provide a unified account, full of heroes, full of inscriptions, and full of skins, so that fairness and justice can be reflected. Li Yuan's opinion is completely different. He believes that this is just a game competition, and the ultimate goal is to make money, to increase the influence of Honor of Kings and the participation of game enthusiasts. If you use your own account, it will be more difficult to fake, and it can also increase the sales of King of Glory. As a game player, he knows very well that many players do not buy many heroes, incomplete inscriptions, and are even reluctant to spend dozens of yuan to buy skins. They are pure free players. It is not that free players are useless, but for the company, the more Krypton Gold players, the better. He did not make this game because it is fun, but in essence, it is to make money. In the end, it was Li Yuan who persuaded Zhong Tingyu to agree with his way of playing. And the result, from Lin Yue's report just now, has proved that his decision is right. For this game, free players also started to pay Krypton Gold, buying inscriptions, skins, and heroes, which directly led to a significant increase in game sales. A few days ago, the daily sales level of King of Glory has fallen to more than 10 million, and it continues to decline. This situation is actually very normal in the game industry. Sales are always the highest at the beginning, or when new activities or new skins appear, profits are the highest, and then they will gradually decrease. The profits brought by holding this competition are sustainable, and the popularity will last for at least a month. In short, Li Yuan made a lot of money by holding this King of Glory National Championship. Good, keep paying attention, and make statistics and analysis of the data of these days. The registration time for the competition is from February 13th to February 16th, 2009, a total of 3 days. Starting from the 16th day of the first lunar month, that is, February 10th, the daily profit level of King of Glory has been counted. On February 10th, the 24-hour data was 210 million. On February 11th, the 24-hour data was 320 million. On February 12th, the 24-hour data was 270 million. In just 3 days, just the warm-up time before registration, the game Honor of Kings brought Li Yuan 800 million yuan in revenue. When seeing this number, not to mention Zhong Tingyu, Lin Yue, and others, even Li Yuan himself was shocked. After careful consideration, Li Yuan felt that this number was not too exaggerated. You know, at the peak of Honor of Kings, Zhao Yun's mecha skin alone made more than 100 million yuan a day, which is much more exaggerated than this. Of course, the end game and the mobile game are incomparable. However, Honor of Kings has just been launched, and there are many things to buy. The first batch of 36 heroes, each hero has 1 to 3 skins, plus buying inscriptions, the total is not much. In the Galaxy Bay Villa. After playing a double billiards and basketball friendly game with Zhong Tingyu, Li Yuan accurately shot into the hole and hit the black 8 red heart. The two were discussing the situation of the two main products Honor of Kings and Chayan Use. Senior, making games is still more profitable, much more profitable than making milk tea. It's really exaggerated to make 800 million in 3 days. Li Yuan laughed, stretched, and asked, how is the milk tea shop these days? In the past 3 days, he only paid attention to the King of Glory National Championship, and honed his skills and familiarized himself with a certain music. He was preparing to find Xiaoyue in the capital of the north, but he didn't pay much attention to the expansion of the Chayan Use milk tea shop. All kinds of things about Chayan Use, such as the site selection of new stores, staff recruitment, etc., have basically been done by Zhong Tingyu in recent days. Zhong Tingyu lay in Li Yuan's arms, feeling the strong arms, and both her spirit and body were satisfied. The site selection in cities such as Hangzhou, Jinling, and Shenzhen has been settled, and the preliminary contract has been signed. We are waiting for the funds to be deposited, and we can start the decoration. After Zhong Tingyu finished speaking, he suddenly paused, and his tone became more serious. Next, I'm going to go to Sicheng. Chapter 330 Zhong Tingyu, Dad, I'm richer than you now. Although Sicheng is very close to the Demon City, only about an hour's drive away, it is also where she grew up. But there, she feels something special about it. She wants to see it, but she is afraid of being discovered. So, even if she goes to the imperial capital, Hangzhou, and Shenzhen first, she didn't choose to go to Sicheng, which is only a stone's throw away. She couldn't help but think of the words her biological father had said behind her back. Every time she thought about it, she felt a chill in her heart. Many times, she wanted to escape and not think about it, but she always couldn't help but think about it. Li Yuan saw that Zhong Tingyu's tone suddenly dropped, and a tangled look flashed across her beautiful face. His heart moved, and he seemed to think of something. Before, he had thought about what Zhong Tingyu's father would do if he knew Zhong Tingyu's current situation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 573. Could it be that, like what was shown in some TV idol dramas, he would come to the magical city, quarrel with himself, and then artificially create difficulties, determined not to let Zhong Tingyu be with him? All kinds of thoughts flashed through Li Yuan's mind. He reached out and took Zhong Tingyu's warm and tender hand, placed it under his abdomen, and looked at her with a smile. Little moon, no matter what happens in the future, you have to remember that there is me behind you. Hearing Li Yuan's sincere words and looking at the solemn expression in Li Yuan's smile, Zhong Tingyu's body trembled suddenly. She looked deeply at Li Yuan and asked with some confusion and fear. Senior, do you know what I am thinking? Li Yuan smiled, reached out and pinched Zhong Tingyu's face as white as snow. He likes this kind of intimate gestures between lovers very much. Little moon, are you thinking about things at home? Can you talk to me? When Li Yuan said the central voice, Zhong Tingyu's body suddenly trembled. She had told Li Yuan about this before, but Li Yuan had forgotten about it. She didn't expect that Li Yuan would still remember it. Senior, he called me today. He already knows our current situation. Li Yuan held Zhong Tingyu in his arms and could feel the uneasiness in her heart. Then, what did your father say? Did he threaten you? Zhong Tingyu shook her head and told the situation without any hesitation. No, he just said to let me go home and take a look when I have time. I think he may not know that I know what he said before. Li Yuan was not surprised by this. He could just talk about this kind of thing behind his back. How could he say it in front of his daughter, even if he didn't care about his biological daughter? Little moon, what do you want to do? What are your plans? Zhong Tingyu glanced at Li Yuan and her tone became firm. I don't have any father-daughter feelings towards him, and he shouldn't threaten me with anything. The reason why I still recognize him now is just because I don't want to make my mother sad. She still loves him. Listening to Zhong Tingyu's decisive words, Li Yuan was slightly surprised, but felt that it was natural. Not to mention Zhong Tingyu as a girl, even if she were to put herself in her shoes, she might have gone too far. She must retaliate, ruthlessly, in order to relieve the hatred in her heart. Li Yuan touched Zhong Tingyu's head and said with a smile, Little moon, no matter what decision you make, I will support you. When will you go to Su City? I will go with you to meet your father. Senior, thank you. Hearing that Li Yuan took the initiative to accompany her, Zhong Tingyu was very moved and leaned tightly into Li Yuan's arms, as if she wanted to blend in. Li Yuan smiled and said, if there is anything to thank between the two of us, this is what I should do. By the way, get another car when you go. Zhong Tingyu was a little confused. Change a car? Why change a car? Li Yuan laughed, since we are going to see your father, the cars we have now are not of high quality, so we must arrange for the highest end car. Just as it happened, a year ago, I had arranged to order a high-end car. Today, the sales manager then they informed me that the car had arrived and the procedures were completed. Zhong Tingyu was even more surprised. Senior, when did you order the car? Why didn't I know? Li Yuan smiled and said, didn't I tell you before that I plan to buy a high-end car so that I can have face when discussing business in the future? I will just arrange such a small matter casually. Oh, Zhong Tingyu nodded and asked curiously, Senior, what kind of car did you recently order? Li Yuan replied, a top-notch car, which represents a symbol of status. Guess. A symbol of status, Zhong Tingyu's eyes lit up, Senior, is it a Rolls-Royce? Li Yuan nodded, well, it's a Rolls-Royce. It's worth 1,000 W. You should be able to get it, right? This is the most expensive model except for a few sports cars such as Bugatti and Koenigsegg. Zhong Tingyu chuckled, looked deeply at Li Yuan, and joked, Senior, you are trying to scare my father. Li Yuan smiled and said, it's best to scare you, so that he won't arrogantly embarrass you. I had thought before that one day, I would be able to use it just right. Zhong Tingyu hugged Li Yuan's arm in emotion and murmured affectionately, Senior, you are so good to me. Li Yuan placed Zhong Tingyu's little hand 3 inches below his lower abdomen, and smiled mischievously, my little moon, how are you going to repay me? Touching Li Yuan, Zhong Tingyu's pretty face flushed, her beautiful eyes glared at Li Yuan fiercely, her sexy lips moved, she leaned down and kissed him gently. Hey, little moon, don't hurt me. You are repaying kindness with hatred. Humph, whoever made you so bad, I will demonize you. Okay, Yao, please be gentle. It will be more comfortable. You bastard, you are so bad. Why is this such a stinky gangster? Huh, I said yes, otherwise, I will still demon you. Yes, you hold my lifeline now, and I will do whatever you want. The next day, Li Yuan took Zhong Tingyu to the Rolls-Royce Fourth Sun flagship store in Magic City. At this moment, no one came to ridicule Li Yuan or hit him in the face. Even if Li Yuan is wearing a mask, as long as he is not a fool and has no brain, he will not sneer at Li Yuan and Zhong Tingyu for dressing up in luxury brands. As the world's top luxury car brand, Rolls-Royce has always been synonymous with luxury and status. This is a real top luxury car. Li Yuan looked at the black Rolls-Royce in front of him, and the unique little golden man looked a little cute at this moment. Zhong Tingyu looked at the Rolls-Royce and said with a smile, Senior, is this the car you bought? It looks quite grand. Li Yuan nodded, well, it looks okay, the space is very spacious, this is the extended version, the whole body is 6 meters long, and the interior space is very large. Xiao Yu, do you want to try the ride experience? I will be your private car driver. Zhong Tingyu chuckled, okay, I can let the great talent Li be your private car driver for once, which is what I want. This car is registered under the Chayan USE company, mainly for tax deduction, and the documents, driving license, etc. are all complete. Li Yuan sat in the driver's seat, driving this multi-million luxury car, but felt very awkward. This car is not very comfortable to drive. The performance is very good, very stable, and the acceleration is also very fast, but the operation feels average. Li Yuan had expected this situation a long time ago. Rolls-Royce is different from a sports car. One is for sitting and the other is for driving. The positioning is completely different. Those who can afford Rolls-Royce, a luxury car worth tens of millions, must be rich or noble. Such people rarely drive themselves and have private drivers. On the co-pilot, Zhong Tingyu frowned at Li Yuan and asked in confusion. Senior, how does this car drive? Li Yuan shook his head, it's average, not as comfortable as my BMW X6. Zhong Tingyu pursed his lips and smiled, haha, how about we drive that BMW X6? Li Yuan shook his head, it's okay, just drive this car and equip it with a private driver. It just so happens that some time ago, I have hired several bodyguards and drivers. They used to do security work in the company, and now they are just used as private drivers. The matter of hiring bodyguards was decided when dealing with Yin Sheng and Yin Ji. The few bodyguards he hired were not cheap. They were all veterans, very good at fighting, and retired from special forces. Their families were also very clean. A monthly salary of more than 20,000 yuan was considered a sky-high price even in the Magic City. Before, he just asked them to protect their parents secretly, just in case. However, now it seems that the public security in the Magic City is still very good. Although there is commercial competition, it has not risen to the point of personal attack. If this happened in America, maybe it would have to taste the bullet of capitalism. That morning, Li Yuan called the driver of the special car, and called Su Yunting, the general manager of Chaoyan USE, to go to Sicheng together. As the strongest prefecture-level city in the country, Sicheng's economic level is stronger than that of ordinary provincial capitals, not to mention its consumption capacity. There is heaven above, and Suzhou and Hangzhou below. From ancient times to the present, Sicheng and Hangzhou have been on par. Now in 2009, the development levels of the two cities are not much different. On the co-pilot, Su Yunting was holding a stack of documents and introducing Li Yuan and Zhong Tingyu in the back row. Mr. Li, Mr. Zhong, our company plans to build 10 branches in Suzhou, located in, the largest one is the main store in Suzhou, covering an area of 300 square meters, located in the most prosperous city center, with a total price of 9.6 million yuan for a single house. The smallest one is 96 square meters. We have already inspected these 10 stores in the past 2 days, involving 6 owners, and the price has been preliminarily negotiated. Now we need to sign a transfer agreement. Mr. Li, this is the specific contract, please take a look. Li Yuan took the contract and flipped through it casually. He happened to see a familiar name on one of the contracts. Zhong Zhengping. Li Yuan's heart suddenly moved, and he couldn't help but glanced at Zhong Tingyu, revealing a thoughtful expression. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 574. He didn't expect that he would end up buying a store that belonged to Zhong Tingyu's biological father. This can only be said to be a coincidence. Seeing Li Yuan staring at the words Zhong Zhengping thoughtfully, Zhong Tingyu explained in a low voice. Senior, this purchase includes a set of his stores, and I plan to replace this store. Li Yuan pretended to be surprised and asked, replace? Why do you want to replace it? I think this store is pretty good. Zhong Tingyu snorted, Senior, you are asking knowingly. Li Yuan laughed and joked, there is no need to deliberately change it. This money doesn't matter who you give it to. As long as he doesn't want it too outrageously, just buy it. Brother has money. Puff, Zhong Tingyu pursed his lips and laughed secretly. Li Yuan's expression at this time was like those super-rich second generations in TV dramas. I just don't want to deal with him. Li Yuan shook his head, after all, he is your biological father, and it hasn't been completely messed up. You will meet him sooner or later. Zhong Tingyu naturally understood this truth. Yesterday, when Zhong Zhengping called, she was very surprised and nervous. She thought that her scumbag father would threaten her, but she didn't expect that he didn't say anything. He just simply confirmed the relationship between her and Li Yuan, and said some caring words. He didn't say anything else. This also made her feel mixed. If she hated her biological father, she hated him. Although her mother was not his formal wife and could only be regarded as a concubine raised outside, she was his biological daughter after all. Which father would want his biological daughter to do that kind of thing? She was worse than pigs and dogs. However, when she thought of her mother, sometimes her mood softened. Her mother loved him deeply. Senior, he has a bad temper. If he says something unpleasant, don't let him go because of me. You must remember that I will always stand by you in this life, no matter who is on the other side. Listening to Zhong Tingyu's words, Li Yuan rubbed her little head lovingly. This once cold goddess, at this moment, is full of herself. She only has herself besides her mother. Don't worry, I will handle it properly. I absolutely will not allow you to suffer any grievances, Li Yuan said with a serious expression. Zhong Tingyu hummed lightly, well, I know. The meeting with Zhong Zhangping was deliberately put at the end by Li Yuan. The first 9 stores and 5 homeowners, under the guidance of the agency, signed the transfer agreement very readily. The price offered by Chayan USE is slightly higher than the market price. If they sell it, they will make a profit. The meeting with Zhong Zhangping was held in a cafe next to the store. Li Yuan was drinking iced American coffee, and suddenly, he saw Zhong Tingyu nervously pulling his sleeves and speaking with a slightly trembling voice. Senior, he's here. Li Yuan looked up and saw a middle-aged man in an executive jacket walking into the coffee shop. He was about 1.75 meters tall and had a pot belly. Judging from his appearance, he should have looked pretty good when he was young. Zhong Zhangping saw Li Yuan and Zhong Tingyu at a glance, walked up to them quickly, and smiled and nodded at Zhong Tingyu. Xiao Yu, you are here. Then, he looked at Li Yuan again and took the initiative to greet him. You are Li Yuan, right? Chapter 331 Slap the scumbag father in the face. Uncle Zhong, hello, Li Yuan smiled, and did not show too much anger because the other party was a scumbag father. No matter what, the other party was Zhong Tingyu's biological father. Unless Zhong Tingyu and the other party broke up, he would not hesitate to stand on the same side with Zhong Tingyu and do the same thing. Zhong Zhangping saw that Li Yuan was neither surprised nor happy, and looked very normal, as if he was looking at a stranger. He couldn't help but frown slightly, and felt a little unhappy. This brat, now that he has some money, is so disrespectful to his elders. Zhong Zhangping was very dissatisfied. If Li Yuan was not now famous and very rich, and he wanted to use Zhong Tingyu's relationship to get closer to Li Yuan, he would have left long ago. Well, not bad, he is indeed handsome and has the vigor of a young man, Zhong Zhangping commented on Li Yuan in a dignified manner. Li Yuan raised his eyebrows, just smiled faintly, and said nothing. The other party planned to take advantage of Zhong Tingyu's eldership to take advantage of his age. Although he was dissatisfied, he didn't want to say anything because Zhong Tingyu was around. Don't hit a smiling person, let's see what tricks he can perform. Zhong Tingyu on the side looked a little embarrassed. She looked at her biological father in front of her unnaturally, and sneered in her heart. The other party probably didn't know that she already knew what he was going to do to her. Now, in front of her, pretending to be indifferent? A beast in human form, how ridiculous. She looked down on the man in front of her from the bottom of her heart. Although he brought a relatively good life to herself and her mother, these were not priceless, but were exchanged by her mother's body. With her mother's appearance, even if she had not followed this cruel scum father, she could have lived a good life by marrying an ordinary man. Even now, if it weren't for her occasional financial support, could her mother be considered rich and powerful? Not at all, it can only be said that they are a little better than ordinary families, but far from being rich. In the past, she secretly heard her mother's humble hand reaching out to the man in front of her for living expenses. Men are creatures who love the new and hate the old, especially this kind of scum man. When her mother gets older and loses her glory, it will be too difficult to get money from him. Many times, her mother also spends some of her savings in the past. Zhong Zhangping saw that Li Yuan's attitude was indifferent, or even a little cold, and he was very angry in his heart. His anger rose and his face became visibly gloomy. If it weren't for... Zhong Zhangping's eyes flickered, suppressing the anger in his heart, trying to chat in a calm tone. Haha, Li Yuan, Tingyu, when did you get together? Li Yuan smiled faintly, it's just been a while since school started. Zhong Tingyu didn't say anything, just sat quietly beside Li Yuan, holding Li Yuan's hand tightly under the table with one hand. At some point, her hands were already sweating. Zhong Tingyu didn't look nervous on the surface, but she was still very nervous inside. Zhong Zhangping smiled meaningfully and said, "Li Yuan, I'll call you Xiao Li. Xiao Li, Tingyu is the apple of my eye. I have spoiled her since she was a child. You must love her well." Looking at Zhong Zhenping's kind father look, if Li Yuan didn't know the truth, he might really believe it. But after knowing the truth, Li Yuan just felt disgusted. How could there be such a disgusting creature in the world? How could he be a father? Even when he met the other party, he felt a little nauseous. When Li Yuan thought of this, his stomach churned, and he almost vomited the lunch he had eaten at noon. He was really disgusted. Seeing Li Yuan wanting to vomit, Zhong Zhangping was very contemptuous in his heart. After all, you are from a small place, and you have no cultivation at all. However, he pretended to be a gentleman on the surface, pretending to care. "Xiao Li, are you feeling unwell?" Li Yuan shook his head. "No, I just feel a little sick." Zhong Tingyu, who was standing by, heard Li Yuan's impolite words and knew that he said that for her sake. She couldn't help but chuckle, then looked at Zhong Zhenping's sullen expression, and quickly returned to normal, talking nonsense seriously. "Senior, this must be because you are too tired recently, overworked for the company's affairs, and you need to pay attention to rest." Zhong Zhenping's face became darker, so gloomy that water was about to drip. He didn't know why Li Yuan would mock him like this. Could it be? Zhong Zhangping glanced at Zhong Tingyu, who was smiling sweetly. Her every frown and smile was touching. He suddenly felt a strange emotion in his heart, a greedy emotion, growing in his heart. Although Zhong Tingyu's surname was Zhong and she was his biological daughter, he didn't have much affection for this daughter. They met seldom, and as Zhong Tingyu grew up, he deliberately cultivated her knowledge in dance, music, etiquette, conversation, etc., preparing her to be a long-term investment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 575. For a local business family like them, this kind of thing is not uncommon, almost all larger families have it. Moreover, there are more than one or two people. Some truly top families often have a group of people who support them for a long time and are used for socializing in the upper class. Since ancient times, heroes have struggled with beauty. And he spared no effort to cultivate Zhong Tingyu, and he wanted to get more. Unexpectedly, Zhong Tingyu has such a strong learning ability. Even though she has studied so many other hobbies, she did not fall behind in her studies. Instead, she has always been at the top of the class and was even admitted to the 985 university. Although he was very confused, he still supported Zhong Tingyu going to college. The higher the academic qualifications, coupled with Zhong Tingyu's own appearance, figure, and various specialties, the more reports can be obtained. When he first learned that Zhong Tingyu was in love, he was still very angry, but then he felt relieved when he found out that Zhong Tingyu was in love with Li Yuan. How famous is Li Yuan now? Whether in online literature, music creation, or business, he has been hailed as the most talented new young man in the 21st century. Products such as Tea Beauty and Moonlight, Zhu, and Honor of Kings alone can make Li Yuan a billionaire worth billions. His own property is only in the tens of millions, which includes various fixed assets and investments. The assets of the entire Zhong family in Su City are not as good as Li Yuan's current net worth. If it hadn't been for this reason, he wouldn't have come to see the two of them in such a good voice today. However, he didn't expect that Li Yuan was indeed arrogant enough, and showed a lack of respect for his elder, which made him very dissatisfied. However, he had his own plans in mind and asked for help, so he could only pretend that he didn't understand and pretend to be happy to care about Li Yuan. "Xiao Li, if you feel unwell, you can go to the hospital. I'll just say hello to the city hospital." Li Yuan glanced at Zhong Zhangping with a half smile, feeling very strange. Did the other party understand it or not? Or are you pretending to be confused on purpose? However, judging from the opponent's mature and ruthless style, it is most likely the latter. Ahem, it's okay. Maybe the air quality in Sioux City is too bad, which makes me a little nauseous. Li Yuan said something nonsense casually. He didn't want to continue wasting time here with Zhong Zhangping. With this time, wouldn't it be nice for him to go back and play games? As the big boss of Honor of Kings and the de facto founder of Honor of Kings, he is still in the bronze 3rd rank. If you tell me, it will make thousands of fans laugh out loud. Really, he doesn't have time to play games, and he can't play such computer games. In my previous life, I played the mobile version of Honor of Kings. I have become accustomed to it and it is difficult to change. Uncle Zhong, you are quite busy with business, so let's talk about business. Zhong Zhangping became interested when he heard that Li Yuan was on the right track, and his heart was suddenly full of expectations. Okay, Xiao Li, I really admire your talent in business. At your age, there are not many people in the country who can produce Glory of the King, Zhu, and Tea Beauty and Moonlight. You will not be able to do it in the future. It's limited. Uncle, you are overly praised. Li Yuan was a little confused as to what kind of medicine this old fox was selling. Zhong Zhangping asked, Xiao Li, I heard that you are planning to open a few milk tea branches in Suzhou City recently. Li Yuan nodded and explained casually, well, we are planning to open some branches in major cities across the country. Zhong Zhangping's expression changed and he expressed his thoughts, Xiao Li, I would like to ask, can you join Tea Beauty and Moonlight? Li Yuan was startled, join. Zhong Zhangping said excitedly, yes, just like KFC and McDonald's, you can recruit some franchisees. You just need to borrow your brand and you can just collect the money. You are still young and don't understand the truth behind this. I am here and have been in the business world for many years. This model is a new model of business development and has great development prospects. If we cooperate, we can quickly promote the brand Cheyenne USE to all parts of the country and quickly increase branches. For a city as big as Sioux City, it will have to open 100 or 200 branches at least. If we look at it from afar, thousands of branches can be opened across the country. We can work together to make Tea Beauty and Moonlight a listed company, and then make money through stocks, and you can directly become a super rich man worth tens of billions. Zhong Zhangping kept talking about the grand plan in his heart, and vividly presented pie to Li Yuan. Li Yuan suddenly felt ridiculous when he listened to the cake drawn by Zhong Zhangping. He originally thought that the other party might want to use Zhong Tingyu's relationship to get some money and gain some benefits. I never expected that the other party's ambitions would be so great. He wanted to directly join Tea Beauty and Moonlight and join as a partner. How dare you think about riding a horse? This is completely treating yourself as a fool who doesn't understand anything. Li Yuan was puzzled. Do you look that stupid? Although he is not a real genius, he still knows this bit of common sense, right? If Tea Face and Moonlight is really going to be put on the market, it's not certain what the company's name will be when the time comes. These old foxes have too many ways to change the nature of a company. Besides, he is making money by relying on his own reputation. Isn't it delicious? Why does he need to operate a franchisee? Is he short of the franchise fee? Or can't afford the house price of the new store? What's more, the reason why he invested in buying stores and real estate is to prevent the era of skyrocketing housing prices in the future. Li Yuan coughed and interrupted Zhong Zhangping's fantasy. Ahem, Uncle Zhong, I don't want to engage in any franchisees for the time being, nor do I want to list the company. I feel that the current business model is good. Anyway, I have made enough money, enough for me to spend. Being interrupted by Li Yuan, Zhong Zhangping was already a little unhappy. After hearing what Li Yuan said, he was even more unhappy. Haha, Xiao Li, Uncle Zhong is here to give you some guidance as a person who has been through it. Let's work together to make your company bigger and stronger and create more glory, right? According to my guidance, in a few years, you may be able to make it to the Forbes list. Zhong Zhangping still wanted to continue to make big promises to Li Yuan. Li Yuan was speechless. I have said it so clearly, don't you have any self-awareness at all? Li Yuan interrupted Zhong Zhangping without any hesitation. Uncle Zhong, don't say any more, I have my own plans for my company. Zhong Zhangping looked a little embarrassed. Seeing that Li Yuan was unwilling to say more, he didn't continue to insist. As an old fox, he knew the skills of playing the long game to catch big fish. Since Li Yuan was unwilling to say these things now, then don't say them. Anyway, with the relationship with Zhong Tingyu, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Thinking of this, Zhong Zhangping cast his eyes on Zhong Tingyu, who was standing beside him, pretending to be a kind and amiable father, and asked with concern. Tingyu, how are you studying in the Magic City? Can you get used to it? Belated concern always makes people feel disgusted. Zhong Tingyu felt this way. She has been in college for half a year, and now she remembers to care about herself? What did she do before? It's really amazing to be so hypocritical. Well, I'm used to it, Zhong Tingyu said lightly, with a look of indifference. If it weren't for her mother, she wouldn't want to care about her scumbag father at all. Zhong Zhangping frowned slightly. He also felt that Zhong Tingyu was a little weird today. She was not as respectful to him as before. She was very cautious when talking. Haha, is this because of the courage Li Yuan gave you? Do you think you can escape from my palm like this? Ridiculous. As long as you are still my daughter, you can't escape from my palm in this life. Zhong Zhangping sneered in his heart. However, he was a smart man, so he knew that he couldn't fall out with Li Yuan and Zhong Tingyu at this time. Instead, he could only suppress his anger and continue to greet them with a smile. The Magic City is very close to Sicheng. Go home more often when you have time. After all, Sicheng is your home. My home, Zhong Tingyu sneered. My home is in the Magic City, not in Sicheng. Chapter 332 Father and daughter fall out, Li Yuan goes to the imperial capital. Hearing Zhong Tingyu's blatant rebuttal, Zhong Zhangping's face became even gloomier. He could no longer suppress the anger that had been accumulated in his heart, and looked at Zhong Tingyu coldly. What did you say? I said, my home is in the Magic City. Zhong Tingyu was not to be outdone. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 576. Zhong Zhangping's expression became even more gloomy. Modu, if you have the guts, say it again. Zhong Tingyu responded word by word, my home is in Modu. Zhong Zhangping suddenly slammed the table and roared, good. Good. Good, little brat, you are really rebellious. Facing Zhong Zhangping's angry eyes, Zhong Tingyu's body trembled suddenly, and she was frightened. The shadow of her childhood emerged in her mind. When facing her, her biological father was often very serious, and she did not feel the so-called fatherly love at all. She didn't understand in her heart, she was obviously very hard-working, very good, very obedient, and her academic performance was good, but she just couldn't get the love of her biological father. Seeing Zhong Tingyu's body tremble suddenly, and she looked a little scared, Li Yuan quietly put her little hand in his palm and patted it gently, indicating that he would take care of everything. He looked at the furious Zhong Zhangping slowly and said meaningfully. Haha, uncle. Xiao Yueliang is right. Our family is indeed in the Magic City. We have settled in the Magic City. Uncle, you know that, right? Zhong Zhangping frowned when he heard Li Yuan interrupting, and he was no longer polite. Xiao Li, this is a matter between me and my daughter. It has nothing to do with you. Li Yuan laughed, how can it have nothing to do with me? I am her boyfriend, so I have to protect her from being bullied by anyone. Zhong Zhangping raised his eyebrows, you mean, I will bully my own daughter? Li Yuan shrugged without comment, and said meaningfully. Uncle, you said this yourself, not me. Besides, what good things have you done? Don't you have any self-awareness at all? You, Zhong Zhangping wanted to say something, but was suddenly interrupted by Zhong Tingyu's voice. Mr. Zhong, we are here for business negotiations today, so let's get back to the original topic. When Zhong Zhangping heard Zhong Tingyu calling him Mr. Zhong, he immediately laughed in anger, pointed his finger at Zhong Tingyu's nose, and cursed. What, you are so powerful now, you think you have a backer, and you don't even recognize me as your biological father. I tell you, as long as I am alive, I am your father, you have to listen to me, and this will never change. Zhong Tingyu couldn't help it, and the grievances hidden in her heart for many years burst out directly at this moment when facing her biological father. You are my father? Are you qualified to be my father? Have you fulfilled any responsibility as a father since you were a child? Which father in the world would plot against his daughter and want to push her into a fire pit? Hee, you probably think that no one knows what you said and your plan, right? Hee, are you worthy of being a father? You have the nerve to say you are my father. Why? Zhong Tingyu looked at Zhong Zhangping in front of her with contempt. The anger and resentment that had been suppressed in her heart for many years were completely released at this moment. She looked directly at the beast in human form in front of her. How could she have the face to say that he was her father? Would there be a father who wanted to train his own daughter into a commodity for profit? Can such a father still be considered a father? Even a tiger does not eat its own cubs. Faced with Zhong Tingyu's sudden outburst and hysterical questioning, Zhong Zhangping was stunned for a moment, then immediately became gloomy, his face was ashen, veins popped out, and he clenched his fists in anger. He never expected that his biological daughter, who had respected and feared him since childhood, would refute him in front of outsiders like this. The angry look she gave him was definitely not without reason. Could it be that she knew everything? Zhong Zhangping's heart suddenly shuddered, and he looked at Zhong Tingyu in front of him with some disbelief. Although this smart, beautiful, and sensible girl in front of him was his biological daughter, he didn't care, because he had too many children. The woman he kept outside was not just Gu Langzhen, there were also several other women, some of whom were about the same age as Zhong Tingyu now, and could be his daughters. There was another thing. When Gu Langzhen was pregnant, he wanted her to have an abortion, but Gu Langzhen firmly disagreed. She had aborted many times for him. If she had another abortion, she would never get pregnant again in this life, and she would lose the qualification to be a mother. Because of this incident, Gu Langzhen made a big fuss, and threatened to die, which made him hate Zhong Tingyu from the bottom of his heart. Zhong Zhangping frowned, looked at the angry Zhong Zhangping, and sneered. Just because I am your father. Just because you have eaten my food, lived in my house, worn my clothes, and used my things since you were a child. Just because your last name is Zhong and your name is Zhong Tingyu, is that enough? Zhong Tingyu was also laughed out of anger, trembling all over, staring at the shameless man in front of her with resentment. Okay, tell me how much money you've spent on me since I was a kid, eating your food, using your things, wearing your clothes, I'll give you all of it. Haha, you don't know, right? I remember it all. From childhood to adulthood, I remember every penny you gave me and my mother. A total of 1,445,800 yuan. The house you bought for my mother cost 634,800 yuan, the car cost 265,800 yuan, and the decoration cost 83,000 yuan, the tuition for college is 4,558 yuan, and 4 months of living expenses are 3,500 yuan. Haha, Zhong Zhangping, do you want me to calculate it for you step by step? Hearing the exact number given by Zhong Tingyu, Zhong Zhangping frowned. He did not expect that Zhong Tingyu would remember every sum of money so clearly. Before he could speak, he heard Zhong Tingyu's mocking tone and continued speaking. Don't worry, I will pay you back every cent of the money you spent on me and my mother. Oh, by the way, there's also interest. As for the surname Zhong, do you think I will care about it? Will I care about it? This surname brings me nothing but hatred and shame. Now I'll give this surname back to you. From now on, my surname will be Gu, and my name will be Gu Tingyu. Haha, do you still want to say that you also gave me my name? I asked my mother a long time ago. She gave me my name and it has nothing to do with you. If my mother hadn't tried so hard to stop me, you wouldn't have let me be born into this world, right? Zhong Zhangping, touch your own conscience and ask yourself, are you worthy of saying these things? Are you worthy to be my father? You make me feel sick. Haha, by the way, how can a father who wants to sell his daughter be considered a father? He is not even as good as a pig or a dog, he is just a beastly demon in human skin. Li Yuan listened to Zhong Tingyu's sudden outburst and felt a little incredible. He had no idea that Zhong Tingyu's hatred for Zhong Zhangping would be so deep, and even every money spent was written down and engraved in his mind. Thinking about it carefully, he took it for granted. If it were him, he might be even more angry. Li Yuan just held Zhong Tingyu's little hand tightly and stood firmly on her side, ensuring that she would not be harmed in the slightest. Zhong Zhangping was so angry that he stood up and pointed his finger at Zhong Tingyu. You. Okay, I want to see what you can do to me. After Zhong Zhangping finished speaking, he just glanced at Zhong Tingyu and Li Yuan, said a harsh word, and walked away directly. When Zhong Zhangping left, Zhong Tingyu, who had been arguing just now, suddenly felt like a deflated balloon, her eyes were dull, and she sat in her seat in despair. Seeing this, Li Yuan quickly stretched out his arms, held Zhong Tingyu in his arms, and comforted him softly. Little Moon, don't be afraid, don't be sad. You have lost a scumbag father. You still have me, and your mother. We will all be by your side. Hearing Li Yuan's words, Zhong Tingyu's emotions felt as if the floodgates had suddenly been opened. She could no longer hold back the grievances in her heart, and her tears flowed down freely. Oh, senior, I'm so sad, so sad. Li Yuan patted the beautiful woman in his arms on the shoulder and comforted him, don't be sad, this is a good thing. Let's draw a clear line with him. Let's return to the Magic City and start our lives again. That is our home, a home where you will not suffer any injustice. Zhong Tingyu hugged Li Yuan, feeling endless grievances in her heart and crying. Senior, I want to take my mother back to the Magic City. Well, yes, our house is comfortable enough to live in, and we can see each other often when we return to the Magic City. Auntie, are you willing to come to Magic City? Well, she is willing. I told my mother during the Chinese New Year that she is willing to come and settle in Shanghai with me, but I don't know what you mean and I don't have the nerve to say it. I'm definitely willing, your mother is my mother. Senior, thank you. It's great to have you. Silly girl, I should thank you for giving me the honor to meet such a perfect girl. Senior, my mother doesn't know about today's incident. I don't know how to face her. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 577. Don't worry, Auntie will definitely understand you. Hey, my mother is just soft-hearted. I don't want to see her cry. Little Moon, We are going to see Aunt Gu in a moment and tell us about today's situation in detail. I believe she will understand you. Well, what about the house? A house? What's that? The whole Sioux City is so big, how can you not buy a store? Besides, even if we don't open a branch in Sioux City, it doesn't matter to me. Little Moon, you have to remember that even the entire tea beauty and moonlight cannot compare to your importance in my heart. Senior. Kiss me. Gu Langzhen still lives in Sioux City. When Zhong Tingyu and Li Yuan came to this community in a Rolls-Royce, they happened to see Gu Langzhen chatting with a few aunts downstairs in the community. Mom. Aunt Gu. The two of them stepped forward to say hello in unison. Seeing Li Yuan and her daughter suddenly coming back, Gu Langzhen suddenly looked surprised. Li Yuan, Little Moon, why are you two here now? Zhong Tingyu walked over quickly, threw herself into Gu Langzhen's arms, and her eyes dropped. Gu Langzhen looked at her crying baby daughter, feeling extremely distressed, and quickly asked what was going on. Zhong Tingyu cried and described the general situation to Gu Langzhen. When Gu Langzhen heard that Zhong Zhangping was designing and calculating her baby daughter, her body trembled suddenly and her brain was stunned. She couldn't believe it at all and asked tremblingly. Little Moon, is everything you said true? Is he really planning to do that? Zhong Tingyu cried and nodded, well, I heard that with my own ears. At that time, he was on the phone with someone else. Hearing her precious daughter's answer, the anger in Gu Langzhen's heart instantly burned. Zhong Tingyu is her only daughter, her closest person in the world, and her rival. She never expected that her precious daughter, who was pregnant in 10 months and was born through hardships, would be plotted against her by her biological father. Zhong Zhangping, you scum, bastard, you are not a human being, how could you do this? Gu Langzhen was so angry that she cursed angrily. You bastard, I've been with you for half my life without any regrets, and you're doing this to me and our daughter. I'm going to kill you, you bastard, you're a dead scumbag, I'll fight you. Zhong Tingyu saw Gu Langzhen, who looked like a madman and wanted to grab a knife desperately, and quickly stretched out her hand to stop him. Mom, ignore that bastard. He's not worth it. Come back to the Magic City with us, okay? Gu Langzhen still felt puzzled. You bastard, I'm going to go find him and ask him face to face. Why did he treat us like this? How did we feel sorry for him? Zhong Tingyu just held Gu Langzhen tightly. Mom, I don't want to see him again in this life. Let's pack up and go back to the Magic City together. Seeing this, Li Yuan quickly advised, Auntie, let's go back to the Magic City. There is everything there, and you can see the little moon every day. When Gu Langzhen saw Li Yuan and her daughter trying to persuade her, she still stamped her feet in disbelief. This scumbag, bastard, I am really blind to follow him. Gu Langzhen cursed angrily for a while, and then looked at Zhong Tingyu seriously. Little Moon, Mom promises to go back to the Magic City with you. Gu Langzhen has a lot of things in her home, but there are not many really valuable things. She mainly brings some clothes and jewelry. When I saw Li Yuan's Rolls-Royce, I was just slightly surprised and didn't express much. With Li Yuan's current net worth, it would be strange if he didn't buy a Rolls-Royce that could show his status. In the Magic City, Li Yuan has many houses. Before the university started, I bought a total of 7 houses. Later, I bought 2 large single-family villas, 3 top-notch large flats, as well as various shops, stores, factories, etc. The total fixed assets invested in real estate alone have already reached with more than 300 million yuan. There is no shortage of houses to live in. Immediately, Li Yuan decided to give the house in Jingxia Villa where Zhong Tingyu originally lived to his mother-in-law Gu Langzhen. After everything is ready. On February 12, 2009, the 18th day of the first lunar month, Li Yuan boarded a flight to the imperial capital alone. He wants to meet someone. Chapter 333 The Saleswoman's Beauty Trap, The Hunted Li Yuan. When he set foot on the land of God's capital again, Li Yuan suddenly felt a little nervous in his heart. This time I came to the imperial capital to meet the elf-like girl in my heart and give myself and the other party an explanation. No matter what the future outcome is. He just wanted to see her again. After getting off the plane, Li Yuan was carrying a guitar, wearing sunglasses, and a mask. There was already a black Rolls-Royce from the hotel waiting in the parking lot. This is the shuttle bus for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. In addition to coming specifically to meet Xiao Yuer, Li Yuan also needed to sign a house purchase contract. A few days ago, he and Zhong Tingyu bought a courtyard house and some other properties in the imperial capital. Now that all the procedures have been completed, after signing and transferring the ownership, it belongs to him. After arriving in the imperial capital, Li Yuan did not immediately go to Yanda to look for Xiao Yuer. Instead, he called Zhang Yuan first and explained what had happened since he had arrived in the imperial capital. "Director Li, please wait a moment, I will be there soon." After Zhang Yuan hung up the phone, his expression was full of excitement. He patted Wen 11 who was drinking coffee next to him and stretched out his hand to say hello. "Zixi, stop drinking and come with me quickly." The coffee beside his mouth was still very hot, and Wengzi was a little puzzled when he heard the master's greeting. "Master, what's so urgent? Don't we have to wait for a customer here?" Zhang Yuan quickly packed up his things without looking back. "Leave this client to someone else. We are going to see this big client now." "Big client? Master, have you signed another big client?" Wengzi's eyes widened. Zhang Yuan chuckled, "You've been wondering all day about when your summer flower god will come to the imperial capital. Now, he's here." After Wengzi heard this, he stood up with a whoosh, his long legs trembling in the air, releasing his youthful sexiness and vitality. "Master, is it true? The summer flower goddess has come to the imperial capital. Haha, can I still lie to you? Get dressed up quickly, bring the documents, and let's go meet Director Li." After Zhang Yuan finished speaking, he looked at Wengzi's sexy face and alluring figure, licked his lips secretly, and reminded, "By the way, this time, I didn't seem to hear that there was a female companion around Director Li. Zixi, this may be your last chance. If you don't seize it, you may never have another chance." Wengzi paused, and suddenly thought of Li Yuan's appearance in his mind, and his eyes became firm. Last time, because Zhong Tingyu was always by her side, she had no chance to make a move. And this time, if the Zaiwa male god is not accompanied by a female companion, maybe, I can really get what I want, even if it's just a one-night stand, I won't lose. With such an outstanding man like Xiahua, there are countless women in the world who want to sleep with him. Wengzi nodded solemnly. "In my mind, I am already imagining how to implement my beauty trap when I see Li Yuan this time." When Li Yuan arrived at the real estate company, Zhang Yuan and Wen 11 were already waiting respectfully at the door. Especially Wengzi, in order to display his beauty trap, he wore extra cool clothes in the winter season, black stockings, long boots, and a tights that showed off his figure, with a got-a-down jacket. At this moment, he was standing in the cold wind, looking around shivering, waiting for Li Yuan's arrival. Li Yuan sat in the car and couldn't help but feel funny watching this scene. As a man, he is also a philandering scumbag, so he can naturally feel the covetousness of the opposite sex around him. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 578. Many times, the expressions and eyes of the opposite sex seemed to want to eat him, which made him feel a little chilly. In this world, men are lustful and like to look at beautiful women. Women are also lustful and like to look at handsome men, especially those like him who are rich, talented, tall, and handsome. They are simply tang monk meat in the eyes of some hungry women. So, many times, in order to reduce the coveted eyes, he had to wear a mask and sunglasses and be a cold man. Even so, without looking at his face, his figure and dress alone would attract the sidelong glances of many passers-by. Seeing Li Yuan's special car stop, Zhang Yuan hurriedly stepped forward, took the initiative to open the door, and bowed slightly respectfully. "Mr. Li, hello, thank you for coming all the way here." Li Yuan smiled faintly and responded, "Mr. Zhang." Wangzi also came to Li Yuan with a fresh scent, deliberately opened a few sleeves of her down jacket, and let the domestic bears, wearing tight fleece clothes, quietly come out to breathe. She looked nervous, her cheeks were rosy, and she stretched out her little hand, and took the initiative to shake hands with Li Yuan. "Ziawa, Mr. Li, hello." Wangzi was a little stuttering when she greeted because of nervousness and excitement. Li Yuan saw the sexy saleswoman in front of him stretching out her hand, and smiled faintly, and also stretched out her hand to shake hands with the other party. It was just a shake, not as soft and tender as imagined, just a little cold. It was so cold, and the other party was wearing so thin, it would be strange if he was not cold. Li Yuan shook it for a while, and just wanted to let go, but found that his hand was not pulled out, and was tightly held by Wangzi. Li Yuan had a strange look on his face. When they met last time, he could feel that this sexy beauty in front of him seemed to have some bad intentions towards him. She flirted with him from time to time, as if she wanted to throw herself into his arms and let him pick her up. However, he was naturally not interested in Zhong Tingyu last time, and this beautiful saleswoman was not so blatant. But this time, taking advantage of the fact that there was no female companion around him, he was a little blatant. Just when Li Yuan was about to speak, he felt that his palm seemed to be gently scratched. He subconsciously looked at the beautiful saleswoman in front of him, and saw that she was staring at him with a shy expression, her eyes were a little blurred, and her charming eyes seemed to be able to speak. Obviously, she did it on purpose just now. Li Yuan laughed in his heart. This beautiful saleswoman really didn't hide anything at all. If it was before his rebirth, or before he had Xia's Haijin and Zhong Tingyu, he might be a little moved, and he wouldn't mind having a romantic encounter with the sexy saleswoman in front of him, to exchange poker experience. But at this time, he had little interest in this. He had just finished playing poker with Zhong Tingyu early in the morning, and now he was still in the half-sage time. "This beauty, if you don't let go, I'm going to call the police," Li Yuan joked with a smile. When Wen 11 heard Li Yuan's joke, her pretty face suddenly changed, and she apologized in a bit of embarrassment. "Sorry, Xiahua male god, I'm too excited to see you." Hearing the beauty in front of him call him Xiahua male god, Li Yuan felt very interesting, and suddenly he had a better impression of the beautiful saleswoman in front of him. After all, in this world, whether it is a man or a woman, everyone likes to be praised. He is no exception. "It's okay," Li Yuan smiled and replied, and looked at Zhang Yuan who was looking at him. "Manager Zhang, are the contracts ready?" Zhang Yuan nodded quickly, "Mr. Li, our company is ready, we just need your signature." Li Yuan hummed, "Okay, I'm free today, let's sign the contract first." What needs to be signed is the transfer contract. The advance house payment and pre-purchase contract have been signed. After signing the contract and paying the balance this time, it means that the real estate, including a courtyard house, 2 villas and 3 large flats, have become his property. Wen 11, who was standing aside, saw Li Yuan signing the contracts one by one, and her beautiful eyes were full of envy and longing. Wen 11, come on, you must win Xiahua male god. If you miss such a good opportunity, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Wen 11 secretly cheered herself up in her heart, and then looked at Li Yuan with a softer look, full of desire. After Li Yuan signed the contract, Zhang Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. Mr. Li, it's a pleasure to work with you. Li Yuan put down his pen and responded with a smile, it's a pleasure to work with you. Mr. Li, our company has done a simple cleanup of the house these days. Do you have time to go and have a look? Our company is very experienced in the design, decoration, and renovation of the back of the house, especially the modernization of ancient buildings such as the Sihaiwan. Li Yuan looked at the time. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning. It was not appropriate to go to Yanda now. I was bored alone, so I nodded and agreed. The other houses were okay, but the Sihaiwan with more than 1,000 square meters. Although he had seen it with Zhong Tingyu before, he didn't like the decoration style inside. If he lived there, he would definitely have to make some modifications. Since this company was so confident, Li Yuan thought that he would not bother two people with one thing, so he agreed. The real estate company he chose is very strong. It is the best in the market of the imperial capital. Otherwise, he would not have specifically chosen this company for cooperation. Okay, Mr. Li, I will arrange it now. Wengzi, you accompany Mr. Li for a while, I will arrange it. Wengzi knew that Zhang Yuan was creating an opportunity for her, and quickly replied delicately. Okay. After Zhang Yuan left, only Li Yuan and Wengzi, a man and a woman, were left in this luxurious reception room. Seeing that Li Yuan was casually flipping through his phone and not actively talking to him, Wengzi's eyes flickered, and she gritted her teeth. While Li Yuan was not paying attention, she unbuttoned another button of her down jacket. Then, she picked up the coffee, walked with lotus steps, came to Li Yuan, bowed greatly, and gently held the coffee. Ziawa male god, I'll add some coffee for you. Just when Li Yuan was about to say thank you, he raised his head casually and saw the beautiful saleswoman in front of him, bending in front of him. This posture of bending over, and half unbuttoning the down jacket, directly let the two naughty bears, Big Bear and Little Bear, jump out, revealing their spring light, and the two white pieces and ravines, reflected on Li Yuan's pupils. Smelling the rose fragrance close at hand, looking at the white raccoon close at hand, within reach, Li Yuan couldn't help but look at it twice more. This was a completely subconscious reaction. Not to mention him, any man would look twice more in this situation, right? When 11, who was using the honey trap, stared at Li Yuan with trepidation, waiting for Li Yuan's reaction anxiously. After Li Yuan left last time, she deliberately looked up some information on the internet, such as how to show her unique charm in front of the opposite sex to stimulate the hormones in the other person's body. Previously, the unintentional friction and touch was a way she learned. And now this posture is another way she learned. Wengzi is very confident about her figure and skin. She exercises regularly to keep her figure in good shape, full of curves and vitality. In particular, she is gifted. The two bears she raises, Big Bear and Little Bear, are particularly plump and majestic. They are large in size but not bloated. When paired with this tight underwear, they are even more vivid. In this posture, the two bears, Big Bear and Little Bear, are like they are not wearing clothes, completely exposed to the outside, releasing the charm of youth for Li Yuan to see. All the movements were carefully prepared by her. Seeing Li Yuan staring at her Big Bear and Little Bear, Wengzi's cheeks were immediately stained with a blush. It was also the first time in her life that she tried every means to show her feminine charm in front of a man. Hee, it really works. Thanks to the sisters Anzhe for sharing. Wengzi was very happy. Suddenly, she became bolder and bent her body even more. Even the first and second bears who had escaped from their restraints began to shake slightly with joy. Wengzi gently poured coffee for Li Yuan and put the coffee pot on the table. Suddenly, she stumbled and fell forward into Li Yuan's arms. Li Yuan was admiring the snow-white scenery and watching the two polar bears jumping happily. Suddenly, he felt Wengzi fall and instinctively reached out to catch her. Ah, Oh, sorry, Mr. Li. Wengzi, who was huggled by Li Yuan, felt her body burning hot and her face blushing. Her eyes stared at Li Yuan affectionately, as if she could speak, and she cried out in apology. Although she apologized, Wengzi had no intention of getting up. She just lay half lying in Li Yuan's arms, held by Li Yuan's hands, one hand holding her long black silk legs, and the other hand holding her small waist. The leisurely fragrance floated in the air, and the ambiguous atmosphere was released in the reception room. Li Yuan felt the coldness on Wengzi's thighs, restrained his mind, and looked deeply at the sales lady who was using the beauty trap on him with a smile. Ahem, if you don't get up, I'm going to shout for molestation. Hearing Li Yuan's teasing chuckle, Wengzi seemed to have just come to her senses, and got up reluctantly. I'm sorry, Mr. Li, I didn't mean it. Li Yuan joked, oh, you didn't mean it, so you mean, you did it on purpose. I. Wengzi blushed, hesitantly spoke, and her expression suddenly looked good. Li Yuan looked at this scene, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. We are all adults, why are you pretending to be innocent? The performance just now was quite good, and the honey trap was used very well. Although it is not a high-end honey trap, this most direct expression of sexual tension is often the fastest to take effect, especially for an experienced person like him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 579. It must be said that the saleswoman in front of him, who looked only in her 20s, was indeed very attractive, but he didn't know whether it was natural or artificial. With this figure and this size, it was hard for him not to suspect that it was artificial. Chapter 334 Suji, Brother Yuan, do you still believe in love? Since ancient times, heroes have been unable to resist the temptation of beauty. It is obvious that the other party's beauty trap today was not up to standard. Although the beautiful saleswoman in front of him had a nice figure and a good face, for Li Yuan, the other party's attraction was almost equal to nothing, and could only bring pure physical desire. Coincidentally, he had no desire now, and all he thought about was the arrangements for the afternoon and evening. After learning Xiaoyuer's phone number from Zhang Ruoxiu, he had not taken the initiative to call her, just waiting for this trip to the capital. For this reason, he also made some special preparations. Even if it was a farewell, there had to be a formal opportunity, right? Just like Yan Zi said in Passing by Your World, even if you want to break up, you have to say it in person. How can you just leave without saying goodbye? Many times, he was very tangled and uneasy. Xiaoyu had been away from his world for several months. She had come to a completely new environment. Did she have a new beginning? With her conditions, even in the capital, there should be many boys chasing her, right? There should be many boys who are better than him. Li Yuan is very self-aware. If it weren't for his rebirth, he could only be regarded as an ordinary college student, a small-town test-taker who couldn't even get into a 985 university. When he was young, except for his good figure and good looks, he had nothing else to offer. He was very afraid of seeing the scene he didn't want to see. But he had no excuses or reasons. He himself was a philandering scumbag who was cheating on several people. What qualifications did he have to ask her to keep thinking about him? Li Yuan stopped his thoughts, coughed, and motioned Wengzi to get up from his arms. Ahem, if you don't get up, someone will see you and rumors will spread. Listening to Li Yuan's words, Wen 11 blushed, and she stood up reluctantly and sat next to Li Yuan. She stared at Li Yuan with her beautiful eyes, and asked softly, Xiahua, are you afraid of rumors? Li Yuan smiled and didn't answer. He was really not afraid of rumors. There were too many rumors about him on the internet, and they were all very detailed. He was used to it. Anyway, in everyone's mind, he was already a playboy, and he was cheating on several people at the same time. No one would believe him if he said there was no scandal. That was why he didn't explain. I don't care. My reputation is just like that anyway. I'm not worried. If there is a scandal, I'm afraid your boyfriend will misunderstand it. Li Yuan used the green tea quote, and looked at Wen 11 deeply with a smile, wanting to see her performance. After hearing what Li Yuan said, Wen 11 suddenly became uneasy. She quickly explained, "Xiahua, I don't have a boyfriend and I haven't been in love yet. It's okay." After that, she added shyly, "I'm not afraid of misunderstanding. No, I'm your die-hard fan, Xiahua. I like your novels and songs. I can sing every one of them. If you are willing, Xiahua, I can." Looking at Wen 11 who looked like she was ready to be picked by someone, Li Yuan laughed in his heart. It's only 2009 now, and girls are so proactive. Or, as long as you are rich, famous, tall, and handsome, even beautiful women will rush to get close to you. At this time, he understood why those male stars and rich second generations would change girlfriends so frequently. For them, falling in love is too easy, and there are all kinds of beautiful women around them. If you encounter this kind of situation too many times, it is really easy to develop antibodies to the so-called love, and then become immune to love. Li Yuan just smiled, without any emotion. Although the beautiful saleswoman in front of him has a good appearance and figure, he is not a casual person. Otherwise, with his current financial strength and status, what kind of girl can he not find? "What's your name?" Li Yuan asked curiously. Wen 11 was stunned, and a strong sense of loss suddenly rose in his heart. He had accompanied the other party twice. He couldn't even remember his own name. "Xiahua, my name is Wen 11, Wen for literature, 11 for bustling." Li Yuan said oh, looked at her deeply, and smiled. "It's a nice name." Then Li Yuan fell into silence again, took out his mobile phone, and replied to the message. With the start of the university, Suji, Wang Shui, Wang Yuchen and other high school classmates also returned to the Magic City again. Especially Suji, after breaking up with Wang Yuchen, he became depressed and his thoughts became completely different. He seemed to have given up on love and wanted to concentrate on making money. As a good buddy, Suji asked Li Yuan if there was any good way to make money, and he wanted to do it. As a good brother in two lives, Li Yuan was naturally willing to guide them. He did not try to persuade Suji to reconcile with Wang Yuchen. He had a bad impression of Wang Yuchen and always felt that the main reason why Bai Wuxi became a green tea in her previous life was because of Wang Yuchen's bad behavior. "Li Yuan, Daji, it's good that you really think so. Money is a man's courage. As long as you have money, love will come naturally. Hey, you don't know how proactive girls are now. I just came to the capital, and there is a girl with a very nice figure who wants to pay for me." "Suji, haha, is it true? Brother Yuan, you said that her vision is good, so it must be quite good. How about it, did you get it?" "Li Yuan, no, I'm not that hungry. I'll go after one after another. Although I'm fickle, I'm also very picky. Besides, I have your sisters-in-law, which is enough for me." "Suji, brother Yuan, you really don't want it?" "Li Yuan, don't talk nonsense twice." "Suji, hee, then brother Yuan, if you don't want it, introduce me to someone, I'm not picky." Li Yuan was speechless. "Come on, she's doing well in the capital, and you're in the Magic City, you can't be related at all, what's the matter, you still want a long-distance relationship?" "Suji, it's not that there are fewer beauties in our school, and I'm not good at talking, so I'm afraid I can't find a girlfriend. Li Yuan, come on, when I go back, I'll take you to Shanghai to open your eyes, I guarantee you won't believe in love in the future. Suji, thank you, Godfather, but I'd like to ask, what is Shanghai? Li Yuan looked at Suji's reply and thought, I haven't been to Shanghai many times myself, I don't know a thing. However, the quality of the girls in Shanghai is still quite high, but if you want to take them out, you need to spend a little time. Before Li Yuan replied, Suji asked again. Brother Yuan, do you still believe in love now? When Li Yuan saw this, his expression suddenly froze, his body trembled slightly, and he didn't know how to answer. Does he still believe in love? Is his feelings for Baiwuxi, Zhong Tingyu, Xiaozhaijian, and Zhang Zai really love? Or is it just a simple possessiveness? Seeing Li Yuan playing with his mobile phone, he suddenly stopped talking, his face lost its smile, and became a little gloomy. Wangzi suddenly felt a little uneasy in her heart, wondering what happened to Li Yuan suddenly. She moved her mouth and wanted to ask, but she didn't have the courage. Even though she had taken the initiative to make it clear, Li Yuan looked aloof and kept people away from him. At this time, she dared not take any action. Oh no, Xiahua, is he angry because I took the initiative just now? He looks unhappy, should I do something, or tell a joke? But I really don't know how to tell a joke, who can help me, the atmosphere is too awkward. When Xiahua has a cold face, his aura is really super strong. When 11 had many thoughts in her mind, but in the end, she could only stare at Li Yuan anxiously, tense her body, and sit there, motionless. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 580. Time began to pass minute by minute. Li Yuan held his cell phone, looked at the message sent by Suji, and fell into silence. Just at this time, Zhang Yuan knocked on the door of the reception room and walked in with two people, a man and a woman. Director Li, these are our company's two ace designers, Chen Gong and Shen Bing. Hello, Director Li. Hello, Director Li. Hearing the voices of Zhang Yuan and the two designers, Li Yuan came back to his senses, looked at the three people in front of him and smiled. Please sit down. When 11, who was on the side, secretly breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Li Yuan's smile resumed. The sudden quietness in the air just now frightened her. Director Li, I wonder if you have time now. Let's go to a few of your houses and check them out. I'll ask the two of them to make a decoration plan based on your needs. Li Yuan nodded, okay, okay. While Li Yuan went to the bathroom, Zhang Yuan touched Wen 11's arm in a low voice and asked. Zixi, how is the situation? Is there any progress? Wangzi looked at Zhang Yuan blankly, Master, what progress are you talking about? Zhang Yuan showed a strange smile, ahem, of course it's the progress between you and Director Li. I deliberately created an opportunity for you to be alone with Director Li. Please don't tell me that you just sat there without taking any action. Hearing what Zhang Yuan said, Wangzi's pretty face suddenly turned red, and her voice was like a mosquito, and she spoke with some embarrassment. Master, that. Well, I gave it a try, but Director Li didn't seem interested in me. After Zhang Yuan heard this, he frowned in confusion. It shouldn't be. According to the information I found on the internet, Director Li is very carefree and has dated several girlfriends at the same time. Regardless of your figure, appearance, you are no worse than them. If Director Li is really carefree, it is impossible not excited. Could it be that I saw it wrong? Or is it that Director Li is playing hard to get and likes to play love games? Wangzi stood aside shyly, not daring to speak. When she deliberately pretended to fall, lying on Li Yuan and being dragged by Li Yuan's big hands, she actually noticed something strange, but she just didn't have the nerve to think about it deeply. At that time, Li Yuan's big hand maybe, probably, lightly touched his thigh. And underneath her body, she also felt a slight touch of alien contact, just a feeling of being ready to go. Then, she was pushed away. Zixi, this is a rare opportunity. You and Director Li will sit in a car in a while, sitting in the passenger seat, and test it out. If Director Li is still unmoved, then think of another way. There's only so much that Master can help you with. Zhang Yuan spoke seriously. As a veteran, he had seen too many dark sides of society, and he also knew that this might be the best opportunity Wangzi had ever encountered in his life. Even if it was just a one-night stand, with Li Yuan's wealth, Wangzi would most likely be able to live and eat well in his life. Even if Li Yuan is a ruthless and unrighteous person, with Li Yuan's generosity of spending 300 to 400 million yuan in cash to buy a house, if a little bit of casual leakage on his finger is enough for Wangzi to gain a foothold in the imperial capital, maybe he can get a house. What's more, Li Yuan is so young, has first-class figure and appearance, and is so talented. He is Wangzi's idol. Even if he is a man, he is a little excited by this kind of opportunity. If he were Wangzi, he would definitely try his best to get close to the other party. If he could become one of the other party's girlfriends, he would be really lucky. Wangzi felt anxious, but nodded solemnly. Well, thank you, Master, I understand. Xiahuadida, please get in the car and I will show you the way. Li Yuan had no doubts. As soon as he got into the back row, he found that Wen 11 had also sat in. This left Li Yuan speechless. He subconsciously wanted to ask, but he didn't have the nerve to ask. Sometimes, he doesn't know how to reject others, especially a girl with a nice figure and beautiful appearance. Seeing that Li Yuan did not drive him out, Wen 11's nervous mood finally relaxed. He sat next to Li Yuan, close to Li Yuan's body, and his breathing began to become rapid. Li Yuan felt something was wrong with Wen 11 and asked doubtfully. Wangzi, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling unwell? Wangzi shook his head quickly. No, Xiahua is so big, I feel a little nervous. Li Yuan was speechless. You are so nervous, I won't eat you. Seeing that Li Yuan was silent, Wangzi started to look for words as the vehicle started to move. Xiahuada, can I take the liberty of asking you a question? Well, Xiahua, do you have any plans to hold a concert soon? Many of my friends really want to hear your songs, and so do I. Not open recently. Oh, Xiahuada, can I ask you another question? Explain. Xiahuada, I heard them say that this time you will hold another concert at the finals of the Honor of Kings national competition, just like the last Milk Tea Sister Award show. This is true. Li Yuan glanced at Wen 11 strangely, who looked full of expectation, and asked curiously. Who did you hear this news from? Wangzi quickly asked. I saw it all on the internet, and also in your book friends group and fan group, Xiahua. After hearing this, Li Yuan thought to himself that these fans really understand him. He did have this plan, and it was also a way to increase the appeal of King of Glory and Chayan Use. Chapter 335 Li Yuan who was unspokenly ruled. In the past 2 days, the King of Glory National Championship has been officially announced, which has caused a very heated discussion across the country. In major forums, major websites, various QQ groups, etc., many people are discussing to participate in the registration to win the tens of millions of prizes. Because Honor of Kings has been online for less than a month, players are in a stage of high enthusiasm and are very confident in their skills. There are a lot of people who have made appointments and queued up to sign up. Even those who never played games before are curious and follow the trend to register accounts and play a few games. Xiahua, I can play this game too. It's really very interesting. Li Yuan smiled. Do you play a mage or a support? Seeing that Li Yuan was interested in discussing the game with him, Wen 11 was very happy and quickly told him about his game. I prefer to play Daji and Wang Zhejian. Their skills are very interesting, and the lines in the game are also very interesting. As he spoke, Wen 11 suddenly changed his voice and leaned against Li Yuan. As the car drove, there was a touch. Xiahua, do you want me to perform a few lines for you? Wen 11's voice is as magnetic as her figure and appearance. She is very sexy and seductive. Li Yuan can already imagine what it would feel like if the other party imitated Daji's lines. Suddenly, I felt a little bit of anticipation. Oh, you try to learn it? Well, okay, Xiahua. Wen 11 blushed, thinking of Daji's lines in the game, and spoke shyly. Master, come and play with Daji. Daji has always loved the master. What does bond mean? Listening to Wen 11's sexy and cheesy voice, Li Yuan shuddered suddenly. This voice is too penetrating, and it feels more like the voice acting that the company specially found. Coupled with Wen 11's figure and appearance, it is even more killer. Seeing that Li Yuan was fascinated by listening, Wen 11 was delighted, and quietly leaned towards Li Yuan again, almost sticking together.